My name is Amina Rahman, and for 31 years I was a devoted Muslim woman. I covered my hair. I prayed 5 times a day. I fasted every Ramadan. I defended Islam with my whole chest. And if anyone had told me I would one day sit in front of a camera and say the words I'm about to say, I would have called them insane. Because 3 weeks ago, I died. My heart stopped. My body went cold. And while the doctors were trying to bring me back, I stood in a place so real, so terrifying, and so spiritually undeniable that I have not slept the same since. And before this is over, I'm going to tell you the exact moment I saw a face I recognized, a face known by millions, a face I never expected to see there. But listen carefully before you click away. If you are Muslim, I am begging you to stay. If you are Christian, do not get smug and do not get comfortable. And if you are atheist, skeptical, or just curious, I understand that too. Because I am not here to win an argument. I am here because I believe I was sent back to tell the truth. And the truth is, what I saw after death was not what I had spent decades preparing for. I did not meet the version of God I thought I understood. I did not experience what I expected as a practicing Muslim woman. And the one who met me on the other side was Jesus. Not Isa the prophet, not a symbolic figure, not a teacher. Jesus. And what he showed me about deception, religion, and the souls of people who mislead others in God's name has shaken me to the center of who I am. I'm going to tell you everything, but first, you need to understand who I was before I died. Because if you don't understand that, you won't understand why this testimony has cost me almost everything. I was born in Dearborn, Michigan in 1966. My parents came to America with very little, but they carried their faith with them like treasure. Islam was not just our religion. It was the air in our house, the rhythm of our days, the way we understood life, death, morality, suffering, and God. I was raised to believe that truth was clear, that Allah had spoken, that the Quran was final, and that Jesus Isa was a prophet, yes, but not the Son of God. That was the line, that was the boundary, that was the thing you did not cross, and I never planned to cross it. I was not rebellious, I was not confused, I was not half-hearted, I was serious, I prayed, I studied, I learned Arabic phrases before I fully understood English grammar. I listened to lectures. I defended Islam in college classrooms and family gatherings and online discussions. I was the kind of woman people called when they had spiritual questions. That was me. And over time, my faith became more than personal. It became political. Not at first in some dramatic way. It started subtly. A speech here, a lecture there. A sense that the Muslim world was under attack, and that defending Islam meant defending certain leaders, certain movements, certain symbols. That is how it begins, not with one giant lie, with many small loyalties. I began consuming more and more religious political material. Iran fascinated me, its revolution, its resistance, its language of sacrifice and purity and standing against the West. There was something emotionally powerful about it. Something that made compromised Western religion look weak by comparison. I wasn't Iranian, but I admired what I thought Iran represented. Strength, conviction, defiance. And yes, I deeply respected Ali Khamenei. I'm not saying that lightly. There was a season of my life where I believed men like him were protectors of truth. I thought they were preserving faith in a corrupt world. I really believed that. And if you had met me then, you would have seen a woman completely convinced she was on the right side of God. That is why what happened next broke me so completely. Because God has a way of exposing what we worship, especially when we think we're worshiping Him. It happened on a Thursday, ordinary morning, nothing mystical, nothing dramatic. I had just finished cleaning the kitchen. My daughter had called me earlier that day. I remember thinking I needed to return a message. I remember standing near the sink, and then Something changed. The room shifted, not emotionally, physically, like my body suddenly became unfamiliar to me. My chest tightened, my vision blurred. I reached for the counter and missed it. And then everything went black. Later, they told me I collapsed from a cardiac event triggered by an underlying condition no one knew I had. They said my heart stopped. They said the paramedics had to work on me longer than they expected. They said I should not have come back the way I did. But while all of that was happening to my body, I was no longer in it. At first, I was above it. Actually, above it, looking down. There was my body on the kitchen floor. There was my daughter screaming after she found me. There were the paramedics. Here there were hands pressing on my chest. A machine, voices, urgency. But I felt none of it. No pain, no panic, only awareness. Pure awareness. And then I began moving. Not walking, not flying the way movies show it. Being drawn, pulled, like gravity had reversed. And the place I entered was not immediately terrifying. That's important. Because deception is often calm before it becomes horror. At first, it was just vastness, a dark expanse, silent but not empty. And then something began unfolding around me. My life. Not like a movie, not random memories, truth-filled moments. Every place where I had been reached for. Every place where light had touched my life and I had turned away. I saw people I had dismissed. Questions I had buried. Odd moments when I felt something wasn't right in my spirit, but ignored it because the system around me was too strong, too familiar, too socially expensive to question. And then I saw one moment from years earlier that nearly destroyed me. A Christian woman at work, soft-spoken, kind, never pushy. She had once told me, "Amina, I believe Jesus loves you more personally than you know." I had smiled politely and inwardly dismissed her. In that place, I saw that moment from heaven's perspective, and I realized God had been trying to reach me long before I died. I just kept choosing what was safer to me than truth. And then the darkness opened, and someone stepped into it. The second I saw him, I knew. I did not need to be told. I did not need theology. I did not need proof. I knew Jesus. And I need to say this carefully because I know Muslims are watching. He was not what I had been taught to reduce him to. He was not only anything. He was not small. He was not secondary. He was not one messenger among the many. His presence was so overwhelming, so holy, so alive, that every category I had built around him collapsed instantly. He looked at me, and I felt two things at once: total exposure and total love. I have never known those two things together before. To be fully seen and not rejected. To be spiritually uncovered and still wanted. I fell. Not because he pushed me, because I could not stand. I started weeping before I even understood why. And the first thing he said to me was my name, Amina. Not harsh, not cold, not triumphant, tender. Like someone who had been waiting a long, long time. And then he said, "You were sincere, but you trusted voices that made me smaller than I am." That sentence hit me like a blade, because it was true. I had not rejected God because I hated him. I had accepted a version of religion that kept Jesus at a safe distance. And then he said, "There is something you need to see." And I knew instantly. What came next was not going to be easy. The shift was immediate. One moment I was in his presence. The next, I was somewhere else. And every part of me knew it before I understood it. This place was not made for peace. It was made for consequence. The heat was not just physical, it felt moral. Like the atmosphere itself carried corruption. The sound, I still hear it sometimes at night. Voices, screams, regret. Not chaos exactly. Worse than chaos. Order without mercy. Consciousness without comfort. And the most horrifying part was not flames. It was awareness. People there knew. They knew exactly where they were. They knew why. They knew what they had chosen. And there was no more pretending, no more speeches, no more followers, no more reputation, only truth. And then I began seeing figures. At first, they looked almost human, but something was wrong. The eyes, the movement, the hatred. I cannot describe to you how ancient that hatred felt. It was not emotional, it was intentional, predatory, and I knew if Jesus were not with me, I would not survive 1 second in that place. Then we moved, past what felt like chambers, holding places, realms of exposure. And Jesus did not speak much at first. He let me see, he let me understand. And then, he stopped. He said only this, look carefully. And I did. And what I saw next froze me where I stood. There was a figure ahead of me, not elevated, not honored, not surrounded by glory or authority, diminished, stripped, collapsed inward somehow. And I recognized the face, Ali Khamenei. I felt my entire being recoil, because this was not symbolic, not abstract, not maybe. I knew who I was looking at, and I knew where I was seeing him. Now hear me carefully. I am not saying this to stir hatred toward a people group. I am not saying this to make Christians feel superior. I am telling you what I saw. And what shocked me even more than seeing him there was what surrounded him. Consequences, souls, influence, the weight of what happens when a human being takes spiritual hunger and uses it to bind people more tightly to power, fear, control, and distorted truth. That is what I was being shown. Not just one man, a pattern, a terrifying pattern. Men who become symbols, leaders who become untouchable, religious power dressed as devotion. And Jesus said something then that I have repeated every day since I came back. Many people do not follow evil because they love evil. They follow it because it wears the language of righteousness. That sentence should shake everybody. Muslim, Christian, anybody. Because deception is not usually obvious. It looks holy. It sounds disciplined. It often comes carrying scripture, ritual, sacrifice, confidence, and moral language. That is what makes it dangerous. And then Jesus showed me something I did not expect. Grief. Not just mine. His. He was grieved. Deeply grieved. And he said, I reached for him too. I cannot explain what that did to me. Yake, because in that moment I understood. Hell is not where God sends people he hates. Hell is where truth remains after mercy has been refused too long. And I began to weep. Not because I felt right, because I felt broken. Because if I had died a little earlier, I do not know where I would have been. And maybe that is why I was shown all of this. Because I was not brought there to spectate. I was brought there to understand what I had nearly lost. After that, Jesus showed me more. Not just Islam, everything. Religion used as performance. Religion used as control. Religion used as ego. Religion used to keep people spiritually busy while their hearts remain untouched. And he said something that should terrify every religious person listening to this. Many people hide from me inside their beliefs about me. That is one of the most devastating truths I have ever heard, because it means you can be deeply religious and still spiritually lost. You can pray, fast, preach, memorize, debate, defend the doctrines, and still not know him. And then he said something that gave me both fear and hope. I do not judge people by the labels they wore. I judge by what they did with the truth when it reached them. That matters. That matters so much. Because some people watching this are going to reduce this testimony into a cheap argument. See? My religion wins, yours loses. No, that is not what I was shown. What I was shown is far more serious than that. I was shown that God sees through labels, ought straight into the heart. And the question is not, what group did you belong to? The question is, what did you do with Jesus when he came near? That is the question. And then, after all of that darkness, he showed me something I still cry about when I think of it. He showed me where mercy leads. He showed me heaven. I don't have words big enough for this. I really don't. Heaven was not soft. It was alive. It was intelligent. Joy there is not shallow. It has weight. Peace there is not the absence of pain. It is the complete undoing of pain. And what overwhelmed me most was love. Not vague love, personal love, precise love. The kind of love that knows exactly where you broke and exactly how to restore you. I saw reunions, people meeting again, tears turning into laughter, loss being swallowed whole. I saw people whole in ways they had never been whole on earth. And then I saw someone I never expected to see so soon. My grandmother, the one who used to whisper prayers over me as a child, the one who used to say, God sees farther than we do. She looked at me and smiled like she had known all along that God would not let me go. I fell apart, completely, and Jesus let me. He did not rush me, he did not interrupt. He let me feel what redemption actually costs and actually gives. And in that place, I understood something with total clarity. Truth is not cruel. Truth is mercy. It only feels cruel when we are attached to the lie. That sentence alone changed my life, because I had built so much of my identity around things I could no longer defend in the presence of what I had seen. And then Jesus said the words I did not want to hear. T, you must go back. I said no, honestly. I did not want this body again. I did not want confusion again. I did not want conflict again. I did not want to return to a world where truth is always contested. But he said, there are people who will hear because you speak. And that was it. I was coming back. Coming back felt violent, heavy, painful, like being shoved into a coat that no longer fit. I woke up in the hospital gasping. Machines, lights, tears, my daughter's face, doctors calling it a miracle. But I knew before anyone said a word. I had not come back for comfort. I had come back with a message. And this message has cost me. Friends have left. People I loved have called me deceived. Some said I had a trauma hallucination. Some said I betrayed my community. Some said I'm attacking Islam. No, I am not attacking people. I am telling the truth about what I saw. And I want to speak directly now to 3 people. To the Muslim watching this, I know your sincerity may be real. Mine was too. But sincerity does not make something true. Ask God with a truly open heart. Who is Jesus really? Not who tradition says, not who fear says, not who community pressure says. Who is he really? If you ask honestly, I believe he will answer you. To the Christian watching this, stop treating Jesus like a hobby. Stop treating eternity like background noise. If what I saw is true, and I know it is, then your faith is not casual. It is everything. Live like it matters. To the skeptic watching this, I understand your doubt, but I am telling you, there is more. There is someone, and he knows your name. My name is Amina Rahman. For most of my life, I believed I was walking toward God, and in many ways, I was trying. But trying is not the same as surrender, and devotion is not the same as truth. I died believing one thing, and I came back knowing another. Jesus is real, hell is real, heaven is real. And the most dangerous lies are the ones that feel holy while keeping him at a distance. If you hear nothing else from me, hear this. Do not wait until death to ask who Jesus really is. Ask now, while your heart is still beating, while mercy is still reaching, while truth can still be welcomed. Because I stood on the other side, and I came back with one conviction stronger than anything I have ever known. The name of Jesus is not smaller than you were told. It is bigger than you can imagine. And if this message found you for a reason, don't ignore it. Because maybe, just maybe, you were meant to hear it before it was too late. Amen.